On to other pressing matters, Uber calls on Police Minister Fikile Mbalula to resolve the ongoing dispute between the company and metered taxis. This as tensions continue to escalate after the death of an Uber driver. The Uber driver seen on this video was allegedly attacked by metered taxi drivers outside Loftus Versfeld Stadium. The driver sustained serious injuries due to the assault. Uber has forbidden all its drivers from retaliating against the attacks and to report any acts of intimidation to police. The competition between the traditional metered taxis industry and ride-hailing app Uber will come under scrutiny when the Competition Commission starts a market inquiry into the public passenger transport sector. The Uber driver succumbed to his injuries, fueling more violent altercations between metered taxi and Uber drivers. And Uber management has requested an urgent intervention by the police and transport ministers to mitigate this continuous violent situation. And as the fight continues in the public transport system, here's what the two parties are arguing. Uber is calling for an end to attacks on their drivers, calling these attacks lawless and unacceptable. Uber says it offers better services at a much cheaper rate, while metered taxis cry foul, saying Uber needs to be regulated because they are operating like metered taxis. Metered taxi operators further say the taxi hailing application has a negative effect on their business. And joining us in studio, Teresa Monchik, founder of Uber Drivers Movement. And we have Obasi Kosana, convener of the Gauteng Concerned Metered Taxi Groups. And you at home, you're most welcome to participate. The lines are open 011-542-2186. Or you can join us on social media. Riz Kosana, we'll start with you. Good evening to you. And good evening to you, Teresa, as well. I mean, can we, firstly, condolences to the family of the Uber driver who passed on. And I don't know if any law enforcement could have preempted that things could turn the way they have. Teresa, maybe you can give us a sense of where it all went wrong. Is it a case of regulation not being applied to Uber? Are they having preferential treatment? Or on your side, Kosana, is there a sort of a legitimate expectation that you would be protected from government from any further competition? Teresa, good evening.
Hi, good evening. Well, the thing is, in terms of the regulation, we follow guidelines that are set out by Uber. So it's not the drivers that have anything to do with the regulations. So we feel that that's an issue that's between Uber and the transport, Department of Transport. So, that's one of the big problems that we have is we feel it's the guys on the ground who are purely drivers or driver partners that are bearing the brunt of this. And, I think the anger is misplaced.
Yeah. Riz Kosana, do you think there's a level of responsibility that the Metered Taxi Association and concerned groups ought to take in how they are dealing with the competition in this regard?
Thanks you, Cindy. Let's put it straightforward. The issue between the meter taxis and the Uber, the so-called, because I don't know whether they are operators, is to say, unfortunately, the government is taking sides here. Let me go back and educate maybe Teresa here. The meter taxis are regulated. And if you look at the National Transport Act number 9 of 2009, there is a regulation. I always hear them complain and say there's no regulation in place. Section 50 of the Land National Transport Act under regulation simply states that you cannot operate a land-based transport without a permit or an operating license. That is very clear. Let's not argue about that. And then we come to the competition, where people talk about the competition. Unfortunately, we cannot talk about the competition without looking at the issue of even the competition under Section 66(3). The Act is clear there. It simply says the minister or the MEC of transport may regulate the fares. Hence, that is the reason why there is this problem of Uber and meter taxis.
It may operate a similar service, but it's not based on the same operational practices, if I can call it that, in the sense that it doesn't have a location from point A to point B. It's an application. So it's not a fleet of vehicles that has an office and a call center, as it were. It's an application. So isn't there a difference, though, Teresa? Maybe you can clarify whether the law has been circumvented by Uber based on what the concerns are of the meter taxis.
To be honest, I think it's a little unfair. I'm representing Uber drivers, so I'm not actually from Uber. So I feel, in terms of kind of legislation and those kind of issues, I'm not in a position that I can really say. I mean, it's e-hailing, and I think that's where part of the issue has come in. It's just like a completely different, different way of working to.
But what it's sustainable interventions from transport or the police ministry to avoid any further loss of life and victimization and putting passengers and drivers at risk. What is there? Are you guys even talking to each other? Is there a meeting of minds somehow?
Unfortunately, we haven't actually had an opportunity, and we are not a recognised body. We're just a grassroots movement, kind of that's trying to protect, the rights and safety of the drivers. So I do feel that it would be beneficial if we could sit around a table, because I think, there's the regulatory kind of issues, but for us, it's more about the drivers and the drivers' safety and the fact that they should not be involved in this war.
Nkosana, again, I mean, I come back to the fact that there needs to be onus on the Meter Taxi Association in how they deal with competition and conflict. That it cannot be that we're seeing almost the standoff between the drivers, as Teresa says, they're only operational, they're not necessarily management.
It is very unfortunate because, as she says, she has no mandate to talk on behalf of Uber. I appreciate that because I was listening to her yesterday when she was having an interview at night. So, again, I want to come back to the question of competition. Really, you cannot compare apples with bananas. And coming back again, whereby you were talking about the issue of, she was talking about the issue of hailing. There's nothing that exists in the Act that says e-hailing. The Act has never been amended. It just sticks there. It's Section 66 of the National Land Transport Act. That's it. Up until the Act has been amended, then they can start talking about the e-hailing. And at the same time, if you are getting, let's say, a permit or operating license, there is what we call an annexure, which really restricts you and tells you to say, this is where you must operate. You can operate from here to this in that area. It is not to say in Sutufunya Fehle, where you can go anywhere where you like. That is not the situation. And again, they will always claim that they are operating with receipt. It is very clear. I brought you the receipt to show you that's what is written there. Let's not, this is what is written on the receipt to say you cannot operate. This receipt tells you simple to say you cannot operate a meter taxi or even minibuses or any land-based transport if you don't have a permit. So if the government, like I heard the Minister of Police talking something that he doesn't understand, it's unfortunate to say, yes, he is going, because he says he has met Uber. He hasn't met us. He doesn't know what is our concern. He doesn't know what is the act that is in front of him. He hasn't read it.
Teresa, I mean, also the protection from Uber as I suppose the managers of this application. What measures are there to protect your members?
The whole thing is that we are treated as individual contractors. So because we're individual contractors, they don't really have, I mean, they are trying to kind of work with the Department of Transport and with with the Minister of Police, but we don't have any clear idea of what they're doing.
Yeah, because the hostility here stems from the fact that it seems the law is not applicable, or it's not, meter taxis are not treated equally, and that there's preferential treatment of Uber. It's a wonderful app. People, have rave reviews about it. But the receipt I have here of 300 Rand between Uber driver and a client, at the bottom it says this receipt does not authorize the conveyance of passengers. So there is a legality issues, and I think that's where the gripe of the Meter Taxi Association comes from. It does not condone the violence or victimization that has been experienced, but I think legally, from that point of view, it's going to be very difficult to try and mitigate that. But we take a caller. Good evening to you and welcome. Happy Mandela Day.
Happy Mandela Day too. How are you, Cindy?
I'm well. How are you?
Very good.
Okay, Quentin, what's your question or comment?
No, my comment is that actually South Africa is under a radical transformation. Am I correct? Mm-hmm. So it seems like government is taking side here. So why don't they actually hear the concerns of the people who've been the operators before the Uber came into business?
All right, Quentin, thanks so much. Let's take Mohammed from Johannesburg. Good evening to you.
Hi, I just wanted to know what...
Mohammed?
Hi, I just wanted to find out what the meter taxis, the taxis are in such a bad state, the prices are so high, and they don't have the same kind of service that Uber are getting. Why should the consumer be deprived of a good service because of internal squabbles between meter taxis and Uber? And also I see that they're not happy with tuk-tuk drivers as well. They're also providing a cheaper service where a meter taxi will cost you 300 Rand for maybe a 5-minute drive, and you can get the same thing for like 30 Rand on Uber.
All right,
That's
thanks.
my comment.
All right, thanks so much, Mohammed. On one hand, excuse me, Teresa, maybe you can clarify that there is that sense of a preferential treatment to Uber. And Mohammed asking, why should the customer be held to ransom if the choice is there to go with a more efficient service?
You want my to answer, Mohammed? Mm-hmm. It is very unfortunate. Maybe, at times educated people, they don't listen. We are talking about the act in place to say Uber is illegal. As long as it is illegal, one other thing that we have to look at their illegality is to say, hence, of course, they have to charge that slave price. Because yesterday they were giving an example, like from Park Station to Braamfontein is about 20 Rand or 25 Rand. She will correct me. And then Uber takes 25 Rand. When they take 25 Rand, they are left with, this is 25%. They are left with 14 Rand 50. You get into the Park Station, you pick up someone inside the Park Station. It is 15 Rand when you enter there. How much are you left with? You have left with
we
absolutely
understand, Res Khosan. I mean, in terms of your grievances and maybe feeling that you're being muzzled out of an industry that you had dominated, but the customer need not suffer. These things can be handled at a strategic level with all material stakeholders, without the client. This is the choice that people would make, and you have all the right to do so. So it's not a case of having sympathy as a universal approach to meter taxis as such. So why should the customer suffer?
Cindy, maybe we don't understand each other here. We are saying the operation is illegal. If the operation is illegal, we can never talk about any or customer preference because we are legal as meter taxis. So the day they become legal, the day the act is amended and the e-hailing system, it is not to say we will die here, it will be a doomsday for us. We are sitting there, we know what will be the next step when this thing has been changed, the act has been changed. So at this stage, we cannot talk about customers because, first of all, we say the act has got to be followed to the letter. That's it. At this stage, Uber do not have customers. And there is this big point that we have to point out. When you issue a permit, you don't issue it to an association or to a company. You issue that to the individual. It is the responsibility of the individuals to obtain the legal permits.
All right,
That's another
Jessica,
thing.
please hold the thought. James, good evening to you. You are our last caller on this debate. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing so well.
We're listening.
All right. I just want to comment. I just want to comment on the discussion. It's quite an interesting discussion.
Yes, James, you're listening. Briefly, please.
All right. Okay. To me, it's a bigger concern. Yeah. To me, it's a bigger concern because.
All right, James, you're listening to yourself in the background. I'm sorry, we're going to have to leave it there. Very briefly, Teresa. So now, what is the next intervention, discussion? What is going forward and also ensuring the safety of both drivers on both sides and passengers?
You know, in light of what Skosana is saying, I really feel that it's up to Uber and the Department of Transport. You know, unfortunately, I came here thinking didn't realize that this was what we were going to be focusing on. So unfortunately, I'm really not qualified to say, but I mean, what I can say is I just think, you know, that violence and intimidation is really unacceptable, and it's also aimed at people that are driving. You know, they have nothing to do with any of this. So you know, I would hope that possibly we could sit down and you know, talk to each other and just see whether there is some way forward.
Skosana, is there room for negotiation, and can you give a guarantee as the Concerned Meter Taxi Group that no further violence and intimidation will be meted?
Well, as far as we know, we have never perpetuated any violence from our side, because we can give you events since this the start of April, when our cars were being banned. It is not to say it's only Uber. They started by banning our cars, and we've been reporting this, and nothing has been happening.
All right,
but
I'm afraid we are out of
we
time.
We cannot negotiate with Uber. It's an application.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there.
Hopefully
we'll have another debate in this. Thanks to both our guests and you at home for calling in. We'll take a quick ad break.